Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us today as we are going to talk about UVM's Post-Baccalaureate Premedical Program. My name is Nicole. I am our Content Marketing Manager at UVM's Continuing and Distance Education. I'm really looking forward to this conversation today. Joining us on YouTube, thank you so much for being with us. We're going to get through a pretty aggressive agenda today. We'll do some introductions. We're going to meet Beth Taylor-Nolan in just a second. We're going to talk about the benefits of UVM's Post-Baccalaureate Premedical Program. Hear from a recent graduate as to how well she felt prepared for her medical school interview that day. We caught up with her at a reception and she shared with us how that interview went and how well this program prepared her for that. Post-Bacc Premedical students and COVID-19 will share and show examples of how our students are working many times on the front lines of the pandemic and what that means as they continue on their path to some sort of medical health professional school. The Post-Bacc Community Hub is a virtual community, so we're really excited about this new offering and excitement that our students are having in that community. And Beth will also talk about the variety of ways that our students build a very strong candidacy and what that means right now during the pandemic and how we have adjusted and how our students have adjusted as well. And many, many health professional schools seek our students, and we'll have a few slides up of all of the different schools that our students go to as they continue their pursuit of a career in medicine. And we have time at the end for questions and answers, and we'll make sure to go through those application deadlines and logistics. If you have questions, please put them in the chat box. We are recording this presentation today. We will share it with everyone who has registered. If by chance you've joined us and you don't know if you've registered, you can send us an email. Kelly will put that email up into our chat box for you and let us know that you want to make sure you receive the recording or if you have any other follow-up questions. So we're going to get started. Again, my name is Nicole. I'm our Content Marketing Manager in our Continuing and Distance Education Department. Beth Taylor-Nolan joins us today. I'm so happy to have Beth with us. She is our Associate Dean in UVM's Continuing and Distance Education Department. She is our Post-Bacc Premedical Program Director, one of the many programs that she oversees. And she has an MED in Higher Education and Student Affairs and a BA in Political Science and English at the University of Vermont. She's had a long career here at the University of Vermont. Beth, let's talk about, I think we could probably have about 10 different slides about the benefits of the Post-Baccalaureate Premedical Program here at UVM. But these are some of the top reasons why students come to UVM. Do you want to walk us through a few of these points?
Sure. The University of Vermont's Post-Baccalaureate Premedical Program is positioned as a career change program. So we attract students who may not have a science background and are looking forward to taking science courses with us to meet the admission requirements for medical programs as well as other health professions. And I think some of the unique features of our program are our location, our proximity between the university and the UVM Medical Center, which is a level 1 trauma center. Directly in between those two physical spaces is our Lerner College of Medicine, and our students have, in non-COVID times, have full access to all of those facilities. So I think it's a unique proximity to be all on one campus. So our students are not only taking courses with our own UVM undergraduate and graduate faculty, but often are interacting with College of Medicine faculty, either in coursework or in research and patient care opportunities. So those are some of the unique physical attributes of our program. We also offer support in terms of accessing patient care and research opportunities, MCAT preparation, and a comprehensive letter recommendation process for students.
And also a variety of different tracks for students to choose from. Majority, which I know you can share with us too, do choose the medical track, the DO track, but there's a lot of different things that students can choose through our program. And maybe just walk us through that a little bit.
Sure. So it's not uncommon for students to come in with intentions of applying to one health profession and then change their mind. So we help students explore different career pathways The College of Medicine tends to be the most popular track within our program, but we also work with a growing number of students who are interested in physician assistant programs, nurse practitioner programs. We always have a few students who are pursuing dental and veterinary medicine. So we customized our coursework to meet whatever program track needs you have.
And one of the things that we'll go into a lot more detail is that outside of the classroom learning. It's more challenging, there's no doubt right now in a pandemic, but we'll talk about how students and how our team is working with students to be able to do that. Walk us through linkage agreements. I think that's also a big one for students, and that connection again back to Larner Medical School.
Yeah, so linkage agreements are really sought after by students and often hard to come by in terms of programming. So we are very pleased to have an articulation agreement with the Larner College of Medicine, whereby students who achieve a 3.5 or higher grade point average in our Post-Bacc Premedical Program are offered an interview. And as we all know, getting an interview to medical school or a health professional program is a big deal, and it's so helpful to have that articulation agreement in place. We do have other articulation agreements with physician assistant programs. We also have an articulation agreement with our own Doctorate of Nurse Practitioner program and our physical therapy program. So there's lots of ways in which you can take advantage of articulation agreements and gain access to an interview.
Great, thank you for sharing that too. And these are the different tracks that you were talking about specifically. Have you seen growth in areas in these tracks over the last couple of years? It seems there's probably a real interest in nurse practitioner and physician's assistant. Are you seeing growth in applications and students in those areas too?
Yeah. We saw a pretty significant shift even in this year, and I think that our application numbers grew overall, but mostly grew in the areas of physician assistant and nurse practitioner. And in speaking with the students who are pursuing those tracks, they're really interested in patient care. So they're really focused on delivering patient care, getting a graduate education, getting a credential that will allow them to be engaged with patients as part of a broader healthcare team. I think some of the advantages to these programs are shorter length of time in school, less debt associated with this kind of programming, and a really, really fulfilling career as a healthcare provider. So we've seen great outcomes from our students, and we're excited about these other tracks. We're equally excited about our medical track, but it's nice to see diversity amongst the students.
Absolutely. And we'll talk a little bit more about the curriculum because you made the point before how it's really flexible and customized to the students' needs. So we'll talk about that a little bit more in a few minutes. And as I teased a little bit earlier, we had the chance to interview one of our graduates of our program. Her name is Anna Seaman. And we caught her at a reception when it was not a pandemic. We have a fall reception for all post-bac students, incoming graduates of the program, current students, and it's a really wonderful opportunity for everyone to get together. So we had the chance to catch up with several of our students, and two of which had an interview that morning at Larner Medical School. And so it was a really wonderful opportunity to hear, how did that go? What was that like? And how well do you think you were prepared because of the Post-Bacc program? So we're going to pause for a moment. We're going to turn off our cameras. Stay with us, everybody. We're just going to turn off our camera so that we can have the video be full screen. Beth will have you come back in after the video, but I want everyone to have a chance to hear from Anna about her experience. So we'll be right back.
because of the way that UVM is organized, with the campus and the medical center and the hospital all in the same place, it really sets you up to be so integrated right into the medical school, right into the hospital. I worked as a scribe during my time in the post-bac, so I met medical students, I met emergency medicine physicians, I met other physicians too, because the emergency department interacts with everybody pretty much. I saw how sort of customizable the program is. A lot of programs want you to take a set number of classes in a set schedule, and I was like, well, what if I want to add some higher level courses? What if I want to make my own timeline? So that was what really attracted me to UVM most. And I was so glad that UVM was my first interview because I felt so comfortable here. I know people, I know that it is truly such a supportive environment.
Hopefully that gives you an opportunity to hear from one of our students. And we also have on our blog at our website, learn.uvm.edu, there's a lot of stories about our post-bac students. We just had a story to honor our veterans, and one of our students, many of our students actually are veterans. And so you can hear also how that connection in their service may have played into their interest in pursuing a career in medicine. So we're going to have Beth turn back on your camera and come back in and join us. So just wait a few minutes for Beth. And I see that several people are joining us in Adobe. I apologize, we were having a little blurriness over in YouTube. So I'm glad that you're here in Adobe with us. And folks on YouTube, there is a link in the chat box. If you're having any trouble seeing some of the slides, you're more than welcome to join us over here in Adobe as well. So Beth, this is probably the trickiest thing that all of us are dealing with, a lot of tricky things, but this has been really challenging for our students because there are so many opportunities. Normally, without a pandemic, there are ample opportunities for students to get hands-on experience, to go to series, to hear things. Many of these, I'm seeing, our monthly education series, we'll be picking that back up, but it'll be online. There have been grand rounds out of the hospital and the medical school. Those are online. So we've shifted a lot of these things, as everybody has. And so maybe just walk us through how are students currently able to get that experience that they're looking for?
Yeah. It's been a big topic of conversation. We've had a lot of interaction with our students around this topic of how to gain access to patient care, how to do shadowing, and how to get research experience. So those are the key elements of our co-curricular activities. And I can say honestly, it's challenging. It is a really challenging environment for students. So we've had to be creative. As a result of that creativity, I think students have found employment to be a great opportunity. So we have students who are finding jobs as nursing assistant, patient care attendants, medical assistants. I have a student who is working in a hospital, an off-campus hospital, that she found a job as a physical therapy assistant. So we are finding employment to be a great alternative to what we would typically have seen students do as volunteers, which is great for them because they are getting really good hands-on experience. They're earning income, which is a good thing for them. And we're starting to see more activity coming online with regard to virtual grand round sessions. We had a session just a week ago where we were exploring how to do virtual shadowing, and we're speaking with our own College of Medicine and UVM MC physicians about how we can have students shadow in a virtual sense. So I think there's a great deal of attention being paid to virtual learning opportunities, but it's a challenging environment, and we're all having to be pretty creative. With respect to research, we have a few classes that introduce students to how to do healthcare-related research. We have a course called introduction to research methods. And I think that those are going to be ongoing opportunities for students to engage in research. We have yet to see the the volunteer research opportunities come back online. We're hoping that by the spring we may see more opportunities, but we're utilizing our curriculum for that.
Great, thank you. I know it has been really tricky. One of the things that I did see that has started back up again, which is really exciting, is AHEC. They do these amazing clinics. You can see the list of clinics that they do. And usually our post-bacs are the first ones to sign up for these clinics. And what I do know is they're doing them again, which is really wonderful. They just had a suture clinic not too long ago. I think it might have been September. It was just in the past couple of months. And so they figured out how to do them safely. And so this is, maybe describe why these opportunities are so good and why do our post-bacs raise their hand first to try to get into these?
Right. Well, I've been hearing from a lot of students that this is a wonderful way for them to not only engage around the content, but with each other. And they're really enjoying the opportunity to get together in an appropriate way and interact with healthcare providers. So these clinics are really a great opportunity for students to maybe focus on a really specific topic such as suturing or something else that they wouldn't necessarily get in their basic science curriculum, but it's giving them insight into healthcare and patient opportunities that they wouldn't necessarily have gotten in general chemistry or introductory biology. So we have a strong partnership. AHEC comes out of the College of Medicine. It's a statewide entity that offers lots of opportunities for students to engage in healthcare-related activities. So we're very fortunate to have them as a partner.
Yeah, and I've seen many of the pictures and talked to the woman who organizes those clinics, and they just seem really valuable to our students as well. This is something that we've been really excited about, and so this is videos and podcasts. We have wealth of information on our website that can connect you to these different pieces, and you're seeing just a sampling of some of our post-bac students. Some have graduated from the program, some are in the program currently, maybe on their last semester, prepping for MCATs, all the different stages of our program. And they all have found opportunities to be a part of patient care and helping during the pandemic. I think about Evan, who was in the library studying right when the pandemic began, and the library was still open at that time for limited people. And he was just about to start his first shift as an EMT as the pandemic was really taking hold of our country. And so these are the experiences that our post-bac students find. And to your point, they're finding more of these paid opportunities to do that as well. And so, just giving a plug to our students and finding these opportunities. I know Jasmine has continued a position at, it's a paid position, but a position at the medical center. And she's been doing hearing screenings for newborns, which is incredibly important work. And again, as I mentioned, Evan is an EMT. Heather is also an EMT. We have a lot of students that end up working as EMTs. And also, maybe Beth, share with us the LNA program too, because I know that's a path that a lot of our students explore to gain more exposure. Carolyn has been on the COVID ward since day one. And just so happens that they chose her floor to be COVID central in the hospital, and she has been there since the beginning. What does that kind of experience play into as Carolyn starts to apply to medical school going forward?
Well, it's hugely important, and it's giving Caroline and others an opportunity to really get high quality exposure to healthcare. And in an LNA position, she is working alongside and part of the team of healthcare providers who are, supporting patients as they navigate through dealing with COVID and hopefully gaining their health back. So we're very, very fortunate to have the hospital right on our campus. LNA training is a great way for students to gain a certification. A lot of our students will go from LNA certified, working either in the hospital like Caroline or in a long-term nursing facility, a long-term care facility. A lot of people are using that as a leverage to gain higher level positions, so it's not uncommon for our students to go from LNA to medical assistant or some other healthcare employment. As you mentioned, Nicole, we do have a lot of students who are EMTs, and that has been a really exciting place for our students to make a contribution in COVID. I know our students were amongst the first in the testing capacity, doing COVID testing, and these are great opportunities for students to reflect on as they're preparing their application for health professional school.
And to that point as well, we have a student right now who is part of the vaccine research that is going on here as well. And so what an amazing opportunity. And she shared with me, and we'll share that story soon on our blog and our website, but she shared with me recently that when she applied for the research position, she didn't know that that's what it was going to be. And so what amazing news as she is pursuing her career in medicine to learn that she's going to be part of the vaccine trials here. And do you hear about, I mean, that one's kind of unusual, but do you hear about those kind of opportunities? And how are students finding out about those opportunities in our network for our post-bacs?
So we're very fortunate that the students who have gone before this group, and the ones in the future, paved the way. And it's been such a history of good students and good experience between healthcare providers and our students. So that's been a legacy of the program. Our healthcare community is pretty small, even for the resource level that we have. So it's not uncommon for students to be, working on a research project or being part of a vaccine test. It's pretty exciting in this case. But students will often be, publishing alongside their researchers. And all of our classes are taught by, full UVM professors. So it's not a situation where students are only engaging with graduate students or teaching assistants. So it's pretty tight healthcare community. We're very fortunate with that.
And the other thing that you've alluded to many, many times is the connection to the medical school and the medical center. And we're going to pause again. We'll turn off our cameras again and show a short video. So stay with us. We'll come back because we have a lot of other things to talk about in terms of customized curriculum, application process. We want to make sure to get to your questions as well. So if you have those, please start putting them in the chat box and we'll get to them. But this short video shows you a little bit more of the physical campus in terms of how connected you actually are, not only to the hospital, but to the medical school. And what I hear all the time from our students is, I'm studying in the Dana Library, the medical library in the medical school. I'm surrounded by medical students. I'm surrounded by people who are also pursuing the same thing that I'm after, and that passion and that drive you feel as you're a post-bac student here at UVM. So I'm going to pause my camera for a moment. We'll be right back as we take a look at inside UVM's Larner College of Medicine. Hopefully that gives you a little bit of perspective of the campus and the types of classes and interaction that our post-bac students have. with also the medical school and the hospital. There was a few pictures. I saw some of the suture clinics and the vitals clinics that our students are involved in. So we're going to have Beth come back in and turn back on her camera, because this is the other portion that is so important to students. And I think every student I've talked to, post-bac student, says the fact that UVM customizes the curriculum for what they need, has the flexibility that to put a program together for their needs, won them over. And so, Beth, talk to us about what does that mean? You know, what does a customized curriculum here for our post-bac students mean?
So when students apply, we review transcripts to make sure that we're not duplicating coursework that may have already been completed. Go through a pretty lengthy process to make sure, though, that those courses are equivalent and are at the level that students need to apply to medical or dental school or whatever health professional school. And then we work with students to set up an academic plan. And that plan includes all of the coursework, the required courses, and any recommended electives. So oftentimes students can be through the program as quickly as 4 semesters if they utilize summer coursework. But many times students will want to stay on for an additional year taking higher level sciences. So students have full access to both undergraduate and graduate level science courses. All you have to do is meet the prerequisite and work with your advisor to gain access to those courses. And we do individualize the curriculum based on whatever health profession you're interested in. So we take that into consideration as we're developing your plan.
And it works because we have about 6 slides of the different schools that our students go to. So, you know, the intention is not to read all of this, but just as I'm kind of going through the slides, Beth, maybe share what that next step is like and the successes that our students have.
Yeah. So we work closely with students, throughout the program to start thinking about where they're going to submit applications. And we have a formal committee letter process for students who are headed to allopathic and osteopathic medical school as well as dental school. And that committee letter process includes the development of the list of schools that you're going to be submitting an application to. So we look very closely at things like geographic location and areas of specialty. We think about, how does your grade point average line up or your MCAT score line up with expectations at various health professional programs. So we, by the time you are submitting your application, you're pretty sure of where you're headed and what you're doing. And we're very fortunate that our students meet with great success. So with an over 90% placement rate into medical school, we're really excited for our students, and we love to hear back from them what their experience is like in medical school and beyond.
And many students share that experience. We have something that we've launched this year, the Post-Bacc Community Hub, which is a virtual group and community and collaboration and study buddy and sharing of books that they're done with and MCAT test prep tips. And it seems like there's just endless amounts of collaboration and sharing. And this has been true of the post-bac community before we had a virtual community hub. Post-bacs help post-bacs. And so maybe just give us a little bit of insight as to what's happening in the virtual post-bac community hub.
Yeah, so we're so excited to have and so grateful to our staff who pulled this off in short order this over the course of the summer when we were remote, pretty abruptly remote as of the spring. We knew that students would need an environment, a virtual environment in which they could engage with each other, with us, with with speakers and content area experts. So the community hub is where we engage with one another, and we have a group of post-bac student ambassadors who are positioned within the hub, and they hold office hours, and they're available to help students navigate not only their academic experience, but their patient care or research or social experiences. So it's a very interactive place. So we post all of our webinars, such as this one. We have videos of students who are talking about, different experiences that they might have. So it's a work in progress, and we're really excited that students are using this space, especially right now.
Yeah, they are. It's very active. I have the pleasure of being in there as well, and there's just so much support for each other, which I think has always been true about the program here at University of Vermont. I really want to encourage any of our folks that are still on YouTube or with us in Adobe Connect, questions. Please post any questions that you might have for Beth in the chat box, and we'll do our best to answer those. What we have here is the typical top 5. Oh my goodness, it says 4 and there are 5. Look at that. We added one because one of the main questions is, will classes be hybrid in the spring or the summer? And so it's so hard to know in the crystal ball, but there's a lot of planning that's happening right now. So Beth, talk to us about what does the upcoming semesters look like for our post-bac students?
So we have both in-person and online opportunities for the sciences, for the basic sciences. Many of our students decided to be fully remote, and so we are accommodating students in lecture and laboratory without having them come to campus. I also have many students who are who elected to come to campus, and they felt that the university's health and safety regulations were really strong, and the testing protocols are working that we have in place. So we have a variety of ways that students are working on their academics. That said, the spring will replicate the fall, so we will have a combination of at-home learning opportunities or online learning opportunities, as well as face-to-face instruction. The summer will be another mixture of course instructional methods. So we're going to see online courses, we're going to see in-person courses. So stay tuned for more information on summer, but spring is going to replicate fall for sure.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I know a lot of that planning is already being thought of for next fall as well. We have some questions from Michael, so we'll get to those in just a moment. Thank you so much for posting those. I know you always get this question. How long is this going to take? How quickly can I get this done? What is the answer to that? I know it depends, but what do you typically say?
So it does depend, and that's again where we factor in any coursework that you're bringing into the program and what health professional program you're applying to. So interestingly enough, the pre-med track is the most specific and the easiest to do and can be done in as short as 3 semesters if you need all of the requirements. PA schools, their programs require more prerequisite coursework, so you might plan to spend an additional semester or 2 depending on the number of credit hours you need and also the number of patient care hours. Many PA programs need higher levels of patient interaction. So we customize that and we build all of that into your plan. We also know that time is of the essence, and a lot of folks are wanting to get in the application phase as quickly as possible. So I would say, certainly 1 year, and in the year that it takes to apply to many of the health professional programs, we see students doing higher level coursework at that point.
Right, during that glide year as they're preparing as well. This question comes up, of course, because cost is always a factor in anything we do. But how do you answer that question? How much will it cost me?
So it's UVM in and out of state tuition. It's the regular per credit hour rate for in and out of state tuition. We are very mindful of the expense associated with this, so that's why we try very hard to accommodate any coursework that you may have done in a prior life. And students do have access for 1 year as post-bac students, have access to some of the federally subsidized student loans. So there's cost, and cost is always a factor, but we work very closely with students to put a good plan together, mindful of tuition.
And then those last two questions that we have on there, we've talked a lot about today in terms of how do you find those opportunities during COVID-19 and connecting with other post-bacs. The community hub, the virtual community hub, and post-bacs are finding ways to study together and to connect and to share as well. So let's get it, and I have also on the screen just the application deadline, so we can talk about that in just a moment as to what that looks like. But I do want to get to Michael's questions, and I see a few others, so thank you. So Michael asks, which medical schools do you have linkages? I know we talked about that a little bit. Would you mind repeating that for Michael?
So our linkage agreement is with the Larner College of Medicine, with the University of Vermont's Medical School.
And Michael also asked, where can I find a list of upper-level biology courses I can take? I finished all of my general prereqs.
So the university's spring schedule is posted, and you would look under, in the registrar's office has the schedule of courses, and you'd look under a couple of different locations. In fact, there might be 3 locations where you might find upper-level biological science courses. And I would be happy to walk through that schedule of courses with you. And, you know, we might be looking at coursework in genetics and cell biology, cell structure and function, immunology. So there's a wide variety of higher level courses. If you've satisfied the prereqs, we would be looking at all those opportunities.
That's, again, that customization and that flexibility that we provide that so many students are looking for. And Michael also asked, how many classes do I need to take to receive a committee letter?
So you need to complete 24 credit hours to earn the certificate. We work with students who are completing 21 to 24 credit hours at the time that they're going through the committee letter process. But we do want to see 24 credit hours of science or approved coursework in order to go through the committee letter process.
Great, thank you. And Michael, I know I just saw you post another question in YouTube. We'll get over to that in a moment. Kelly will bring it over so that Beth can see it too. But let's head over to another question as well. What percentage of people who apply to UVM Post-Bacc program, Post-Bacc Premedical Program, are accepted?
Oh, good question. So it varies, to be completely honest, and it's all about the students who apply. So we set a baseline GPA for students because we are a career change program and not a remedial program. We're looking for at least a 3.0 to 3.4 GPA from your prior coursework. That said, we have had students who have had lower GPAs that for a variety of reasons, you know, they had life circumstances that perhaps, you know, got in the way of where they wanted to be with their grade point average. So we review all applications keeping an open mind, but we do see a correlation between a GPA of somewhere between 3.0 and 3.4 coming into the program and success in gaining admission to health professional programs.
And Sophia, that's a great segue into Sophia's question too. She asks, as a career changer, would you recommend taking some classes while working in preparation for the post-bac program, like chem, bio, or wait to take all of the prereqs at UVM? That's a great question.
That's a really good question. The course that comes to mind, especially if it's been a while since you've been in school or engaged, is math. And so we often have students do math preparation. Can be, you know, for academic credit, or it might be Khan Academy. Maybe you just need to brush up on algebra and trigonometry to be really comfortable when you enter into chemistry and physics. You know, students can take a course prior to, but the program is really designed for students to come in at the entry level and to move through.
Great, thank you, Beth. And then Sophia also follows, is it common to fulfill all of the pre-med prerequisites in 3 semesters? How challenging is it for students?
It is. It's a almost full-time job. So we typically would see students come in the summer and take back-to-back general chemistry. And then in the fall semester, it's a big semester, you would take general biology, organic chemistry, and physics together. So that's a big semester. And so we oftentimes have students do a follow-on summer where they might position organic chemistry and biochemistry. So it depends, but many students do elect to take 3 sciences back-to-back in the academic year.
That sounds challenging. How much and what types of experience make an applicant competitive for acceptance to the post-bac program?
So we don't require that you've had formal patient care or research experience. Most of our students coming in have had some sort of something happens in their life, or they're interested in pursuing healthcare professions as a result of the Peace Corps. Maybe they did EMT work, or they had some sort of community interaction prompts them to head in this direction. So aside from the grade point average, we're really looking for somebody who can articulate why they feel compelled to help others, why they're really interested in pursuing these science credentials on their way to health professional programs. So we also like to hear from 2 letters of recommendation that can speak to your abilities and your credentials.
And that's great that you mentioned that, because we do have a slide up right now that walks through the steps for the application. And you've mentioned the applications online. Personal statement, I think, is a little bit what you're alluding to as well. You know, what drew you to this program, to medicine? And then those letters of recommendation. I know some students, especially career changers, maybe they don't have access to their official transcript. And so, and we have here unofficial transcripts. Where does that sit for students in terms of is that a challenge for them to find that information sometimes? And what do we recommend?
So for application to the post-bac program, we don't require official transcripts, but you will need them as you apply to health professional schools, medical schools. So you don't need, you can download a transcript from your school or college and send it along to us, but you do need to, at some point in time, be able to access your official transcripts.
Yeah, great. Thank you for clarifying that as well. I know we have more questions coming in. I'm going to follow up with, looks like Francesca's question here is keep going on the career changer. As a career changer, do you have recommendations as to who to ask for those letters of recommendation? What kinds of people are you looking for, as part of that recommendation?
Yeah, such a good question. And we're looking for someone who can speak to your abilities, somebody who has observed you in either an academic or community engagement activity. They know you. They can attest to your strengths. They might their endorsement of you as a potential candidate to a health profession is really what we're looking for. So it's not who it is, it's how they know you and what they have to say about you.
Great, thank you, and thank you for asking that great question. I don't think we've had that one before. Michael, and I bet we get this a lot too, Michael asks, if I move to Vermont for a post-bac program, would I be able to get in-state tuition for UVM Medical School? So if he's here for the program, would he then get in-state if he goes on to Larner?
So I am not an official residency officer for the University of Vermont. I'm so grateful that I am not, but I can answer your question. To the best of my knowledge, the answer is no. So if you come into the post-bac program as a non-resident, you would typically remain a non-resident because your length of time in the post-bac program is pretty short. So, say you're in the post-bac program for a year or yet less than a year, you're moving through too quickly to establish residency. That said, everyone is encouraged, if they have special circumstances, to reach out to the residency officer at the university. You can run your scenario by that person, and they would have better insight into your specific circumstance.
Great, thank you, and thank you for asking that question. Michael also asked the courses that we were talking about, and Michael had asked earlier about if he'd already covered the prerequisites, and you were mentioning some other higher level courses. Are those 4 credits classes, he was asking?
So good question. It depends. So they're a combination of lecture only or lecture plus lab courses, and depending on what you're interested in pursuing, sometimes we put together a plan that includes a bit of both, and other times students are really, they'll say, I've had a lot of laboratory experience. I'd really like to focus on higher level lecture-only courses, so we can put together that plan as well. Sometimes students will take research credits, research for credit, because they've already taken all the prerequisite courses. So that's a really good question, and it really depends on what your area of interest is.
Such good questions today. Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate this. Noah asked what percentage of students in the post-bac program go on to pre-med, who are pre-med in our program, attend Larner.
Oh, attend Larner. Well, if you're a Vermont resident, your best bet is to apply, and from a cost savings perspective and just from an experiential perspective. So we see a lot of Vermont residents elect Larner, choose to go to Larner. So I would say of the Vermont residents, it's really high, like well over 80%. Out-of-state students, it varies, and it depends on what state you're a resident of, how many public and private schools are on your list that you're interested in applying to. So we have a pretty wide range of geographic distribution of students. So your in-state school is always going to be your best in terms of cost. But that doesn't mean that you decide to go there. So we've seen a lot of variability in where students go.
And David asked what percentage of post-bac students go on to pursue MS in medical science, either here or elsewhere.
So in terms of a graduate program, so a lot of students will utilize a graduate program as a stepping stone on their way to health professional programs such as medical school. And there are a lot of programs such as the one at the University of Vermont, which is a Master of Medical Science, which is an accelerated 1-year-long program. So you can complete that Master of Medical Science typically in a year. Most students do it during their glide year while they're applying, and it's a really great way to gain higher level credentials, access to higher level sciences, and we see a lot of that, especially in the career change space when you may be coming from a non-science background, and a post-bac plus grad program is a really good way to ensure admission to medical school.
Absolutely, and I've spoken to several students that have gone down that path as well. Sophia has 2 follow-up questions. Are there opportunities to speak with someone at UVM one-on-one environment about the post-bac program? And I know that answer is yes. So we'll make sure to get some contact.
Absolutely.
Yep. And is an academic letter required?
Not required. And for some students, I often hear from students, when I was an undergrad, I didn't have much access to, or I didn't prioritize that as an undergrad. So we don't require it. In fact, a lot of times students will have maybe somebody who observes them in a patient care or community setting. They might have an employer or a supervisor, so it varies.
Great, thank you so much. And we'll make sure, and I'm going to ask one of our colleagues here, Kelly, to put up our email address into the chat box for you, Sophia. So please do absolutely reach out and let us know via email that you would like to speak with one of our post-bac pre-medical advisors as well. So we'll make sure to do that. And then Emma asks, how many students make up a typical post-bac cohort?
Oh, that's a great question. So we typically see about 25 students joining the program in the summer, and then between 20, well, I'd say probably closer to 40 students in the fall. And you move through based on what you need, but a lot of commonality amongst the courses. So it does feel like a cohort in that sense that you get to know the other post-bac students. You're often in labs together, or right now we have a lot of remote working groups, study groups. So students are working together to prepare for exams and solve problems. So it does feel like a cohort, even though it's not required to be a cohort. Good question.
Yeah, and I certainly, the virtual Post-Bacc community hub has made those connections even stronger, because it's not necessarily when you've come in, it's you're all in there together at the same time. So that's been great. And a lot of alumni and graduates from the program are in the community hub. So I feel like the connections continue no matter what time you start the program. Caroline asks, what does the Post-Bacc application, or when does for fall, for this next fall, when does the application close? And I understand it's rolling admissions, but is it like medical school where the class is practically full within a month or two of application opening? So if Caroline is looking at the fall, what would you recommend for her?
So for fall, I would recommend, by April 1, I think would be the best. I mean, that's the very best time frame. It gets you in the queue for registration, which opens up in the mid to late part of April. It gives you time to submit a FAFSA form if you're going to be applying for any financial aid. That said, we do have students who join us as late as June, July, and that just puts pressure on the student to move more quickly through some of the administrative processes. But I would say anywhere, if you're able to hit an April 1 deadline, that would be ideal.
Yeah, give you the most flexibility and take a little pressure potentially off as well. We also have, it looks like Lynn Lai is asking for the tuition portion. I'm planning on using the GI Bill, which gives me in-state tuition. One of the post-bacs, it asks, in post-bac CAS, yes, thank you. It asks me if I want to be considered for in-state tuition. What should I do?
You don't need to, in fact, I would say no, you don't want to be considered because the GI Bill will override any sort of residency requirement. So you don't need to worry about that. Just answer it as truthful as you wouldn't be considered for in-state, but your GI Bill will override that and will provide you access to different levels of funding.
Great question. Thank you so much for asking that. And we've got two more questions, and then we're going to start wrapping up because I know Beth has somewhere to be at 5 o'clock, so we've got to wrap up here in a moment. But that doesn't mean if we didn't answer your question today, please do email us. We can connect you with Beth.
Yes,
we can
please.
with our, yeah, absolutely, please. And we have incredible post-bac pre-medical advisors that are willing and absolutely looking forward to answering these questions. But Emma asked if I were to apply in the fall semester and my situation changed, can she change it? So can she begin taking courses in the summer? Yeah. So yes, if you're in, you can defer as well, so that, if there's that in terms of if something changes in your life and you need a little bit more time, or if something changes and you can start sooner. Correct, Beth?
Right. Absolutely, and we've seen a lot of flexibility over the years with students. Sometimes students will start and then need to take a semester off, and we recognize that things change and you need a more flexible plan, and that's fine. So students can start literally summer, fall, or spring. It doesn't matter which semester. It does affect some of the access to different courses, so we would build that into your plan. But you can defer and you can extend your plan. I work with lots of students who are on a part-time track because they have work responsibilities or parenting responsibilities or all sorts of things, and they're taking maybe a 2 or 3 year track. So it's totally fine.
And I do see one more question. Adam's sneaking in a question right at the end, which is so great. Over on YouTube, Adam's asking, is there an interview component to the application process?
There isn't, but I wish there were. So I often meet with students. I know our other advisors do, in terms of, having a session to talk about your plan and to discuss your areas of interest. So while it's not required, it's often a great opportunity to learn more about the program. Great.
Thank you, Beth. Thank you, everyone, for so many wonderful questions today. And I have up on the slide, if you're looking forward to a spring start, if you're looking forward to the summer start or the fall, and Beth has mentioned of those application deadlines, and all that information is on our website as well. So please, we do encourage, if you didn't get something that you wanted answered today, or you want a little bit more detail, and you do, Sophia, want to talk to somebody one-on-one, please do. We'll be keeping an eye out for those emails, and we really appreciate all of the time and the questions and your interest in UVM's Post-Baccalaureate program. Thank you very much. Thank you, Beth, and we'll hopefully see everybody here in the spring, summer, or fall. Have a great afternoon.